guys, welcome to Get Uplifted 2020. My name is Nicole L. We are here creating community with wellness, fitness, positivity, beauty, and mindset. I am here with my good friend Joe, and we're going to be talking about all things about breaking limitations, mental health, mental toughness, grit, and we're going to keep going on, and it's going to, we're going to keep moving around to topics, so stay with us. We don't know what's going to come about, but we're excited to have this genuine conversation and just talk about some things that will get you uplifted for 2020. Joe, how are you doing today?
Oh, Nicole, I'm doing excellent. I'm so grateful to be here. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on and also for putting on this entire thing, because this is, and like we were talking about before we hit record, this is such a great thing for people to have after such a tumultuous year for a lot of people. And what you're doing is really going to not only inspire a lot of people, but really uplift them to take the course that they want to next year. So thank you for having me. And most importantly, thank you for doing this for so many people who are watching.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate you spending your time and energy with us to Get Uplifted and to speak on here. Guys, Joe was actually the first person that I attempted this with back in March when it was like first on my mind. And we did an Instagram live and we both recorded it and it was awesome. And, for some reason it was like just not the right timing. So when this came about and I was like this is going to happen before 2021, I was just so excited to get Joe back on here because he is literally, guys, I'm just so excited to have Joe on here. He is literally one of like the strongest, toughest, mentally prepared people I know. And he is awesome because he is authentic and true. He shows his struggles. He shows that, the daily things that we encounter of like the mind trying to talk us out of things, and he just constantly pushes past these barriers, and I'm always inspired. You have to check out his Instagram. He is amazing, literally dropping all the knowledge. Anytime you think you're doubting yourself or you're unsure, if you feel like the mind is swaying you in a certain way, watch Joe, because he will show you how to. I'm literally speaking too loud because I'm like, my editor is gonna be like or all the people are gonna be like ah! So yeah, I'm just genuinely that excited. So Joe, I can't thank you enough. Why don't you jump in and tell us a little bit about you, your journey? I mean, wherever you want to start. Let's get to know Joe.
For sure. I'm more than glad to do it. And I appreciate all the kind words in there really, really much. And I think one thing that I always like to point out is, a lot of people do say those things like, yeah, like, you have this aura where you're mentally tough and you're able to be resilient and do all those things. And I always like to preface to say those things like, I wasn't born that way. Like, in fact, I was actually born quite the opposite. When I was growing up, I was probably the least mentally tough kid ever, right? Like I was a kid who would always back down from every single difficult situation, uncomfortable circumstance, whatever that might be, whatever goal that I had, I would start it and then quit because it got too hard. That was just me, right? I never really stuck with a sport that really turned out into anything great. I was always nervous to talk to girls, like whatever difficulty, that was me growing up. And over time, that led me to, really develop a lot of deep insecurities about myself, because when you shy away from the hard things in life, what that does is implicitly, it really brings down your self-confidence and your self-image of yourself. So after all these times where I was giving up or backing down or cowering or anything like this, I was really just shaping an identity to myself of someone who wasn't strong. And that led to a lot of insecurities, like I mentioned before. And when I went into college, that developed into many different things, such as negative things, that is, such as a drug addiction. I was using many, many different types of heavy drugs, cocaine, Adderall, the whole 9 yards from there. Was drinking profusely, blacking out on the weekends because I just quite frankly didn't like my life. I was unhealthy, eating like crap, low energy, just not great at all. And it started just to get worse and worse. I was in a relationship with a woman who I thought I was going to marry and totally blew that one up. Really got into a bad situation with my parents because I was living with them for a while, and we did not get along after that because I had all these insecurities and letting them to really get over me. And there was one point where, I basically remember myself. I was lying on the ground and looking up at the ceiling thinking, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Pardon my language, but that's literally what I said.
Yeah.
And I knew something had to change. I didn't know what, but I knew something had to change. And it all started with me, picking up a personal development book, Tony Robbins' Unlimited Power, which is Side note, how Nicole and I first met, we met at a Tony Robbins seminar, which was awesome. But that book showed me one thing, that change is possible. Because I always thought that I was born this kid who wasn't resilient, who was a coward, who wasn't able to handle the tough things. I thought that was me, and there was nothing I could do about it. But that book showed me that change was possible. So I went through this giant route of self-discovery saying, okay, if change is possible, how do I change? How do I get better? How do I get resilient? How do I become the most fulfilled version of myself? And so through this journey, I've learned basically, and we can talk more about this, but basically the crux of my whole personal development journey is embracing the hard things in life. Because when you do that, you not only build your resiliency muscle, but like I said before, every action that I took that was cowardice or one of me giving up built my identity of a coward. Consequently, though, every action you take towards embracing the hard things, getting over them, and really, really putting yourself through difficult situations builds the identity of you are someone resilient, you are someone strong, and that builds self-confidence. And that ultimately leads you with a place where you're like, I can fucking do anything, even if this voice in my head is telling me that I can't do it. And so I went through this process all along, and, to a point where, I just finished up my first 50 miler last Sunday, and,
I was so excited for Joe. Like, literally, I can't. I'm just sorry. I'm so excited. Side note. That is amazing.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, I was able to do that. I'm working a job that's aligned with my purpose and passion, something that I thought I would never do. And I host a podcast that has reached, thousands and thousands of people. And that is all a culmination of nothing that I was inherently born with, but something that I built. And so if there's one thing that anyone listening here could get out of this entire conversation today, is that where you are now doesn't matter, and it's not fixed for the rest of your life. It's a matter of where do you want to go and the ability to get there, which every single person has. Change is possible. And I know it sounds so simple, it sounds so trite, but many times in society, we're conditioned of, oh, that's the way you are. He's just not a smart person. He's just not witty or anything. Screw all that noise. You can make that change. And that's what I always try to do in my story, especially in terms around mental toughness and adversity.
Yes. Oh my God, Joe. I mean, I couldn't have said it any better. And it's so true. If you are taking the steps to change your mindset, work around these ideas that you are stronger than you think, and, breaking limiting beliefs and just showing and proving to yourself that you can do that. It's like one step leads to the next. And you are a person who literally embodies that. I was just kind of curious, like, what are some of the things that you were telling yourself or witnessing while you were doing this 50-mile run?
Yeah, for sure. Great question. Because I always say, like, these long ultra runs, and one of the reasons why I loved it so much is because there's such a good indication of life, right? Like, and I don't mean like life is a struggle or like life is difficult. I just mean in the sense of, like, in these ultra races, right? You're pushing yourself, you're going hard. Like, there's unexpected things that happen. There was a bunch of unexpected things that happened in this race for me. But how are you going to get through that? And there's only one way forward in life, which is literally one step in front of you, and then another step, and then another step. And I always see ultra running as an analogy for life, in the sense of fulfilling life, that is in the sense that, you have to keep going, and every step forward moves you closer to the finish line. And that's what I just love about it. So what was going through my head during this race? So it was actually, really interesting. I've been doing this for a while, where you get to the point where you can really master the thoughts that come up. But I want to share some lessons that really have helped me to get through that negative voice. Because let me tell you this, if you're running 50 miles and you don't have a negative voice in your head, probably not human. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It always shows up, right? Always. So yeah, so I'll give you an example, and this is kind of like how I managed it through the entire race, and it's a good illustration. So at mile 30, so at this point I've ran over a marathon, mile 30, right? I get to where there's aid stations at different parts. I get to this aid station, and I ask the guy, I say, oh, hey man, like, where do we go next? And he looks over with this like sinister grin on his face, and he points at this giant mountain, like all the way over there. And he goes, you're going to summit that mountain next. And I'm like, oh, like in my mind, I'm like, my mind's like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. Like, what the hell? Like, my legs are already like pretty toasted. Like, this is going to be nuts. And so I see that thought, and I said, okay, I'm just going to keep moving forward. Now, every time I'm running towards this mountain, right, and I see like the steep incline, this thing looks murderous. It looks terrible. My brain is just saying, this is going to suck. This is going to be bad. You can't do this. What are you doing? But in that moment, I, number one, chose not to listen to those thoughts because I recognized one thing, and this is what everyone should recognize in their entire life whenever they have negative thoughts come through their head. That voice in your head telling you can't do it is not you. It's not you. It's not your voice. It's just your brain's defensive mechanism. It's trying to get you back to safety. That's what it's doing, right? So when it sees a giant incline at 30 miles, or maybe it sees like you approaching that really cute girl or guy at the bar, or maybe it's like, you know, going into a job interview where, you know, there might be the possibility it might be tough. Whatever those things is to your brain, that means danger. So it's telling you that negative voice to push you away from it. But oftentimes the things that it's trying to get you to do doesn't align with your goals and what you feel with. In that moment, my goal was to climb that mountain. It was trying to get me away from that. So recognizing that it's not your voice, that it's something like that, gives you the power not to listen to it, because your negative thoughts only have power over you if you believe them to be true. In that moment, I didn't. Here's another crucial part though. As I'm starting up my ascent, there's a guy, camera guy for the event, recording people going up the mountain. And he goes to me and he goes, "Hey man, like, doesn't this suck? Like, doesn't this really, really suck?" And I get it. He's trying to do that because people like to see the marketing videos of people going, "Oh, this is brutal, blah, blah, blah." Because like ultra marathon runners are masochists, right? But I looked at him and I said this. I said, "This is a walk in the park, man. This is great. I'm loving it. Nothing better than this." And this is not a lesson in positive thinking. This is a lesson that I learned from Chad Wright, an ultra runner, that has changed my life. You can have all the negative thoughts you want, but once you speak them into existence, they become your reality. Speaking them out into the universe really starts to, you know, make that real, because you can have all the thoughts in your head, but they're technically not in existence. Because what's a thought? A thought is just something in here. When you put it out into the universe, though, that's where it can really start to get real. So no matter how much this guy tried to goad me to say that it was hard, that it was difficult, that it sucked, I was not budging down. Not because I'm being like a delusional optimist, but because I didn't want to speak it into existence. And let me tell you, I ran up that mountain and was able to crush it and come back down with ease. Now, I'm not superhuman too. At mile 40, my stomach started hurting. My legs started giving out. I was getting tired. I was getting, quite frankly, kind of bored too. Like, try running for like 8 miles, doing the same thing for 8 hours. Like, it's mind boggling.
I can't even imagine.
Exactly. In that moment, I, you know, just kept telling myself, one step forward, one step forward. That's it. Make it to that next cactus. Cause I was in the desert running. just focusing on that one step forward. Because the thing is, in life, when we have big tasks that are difficult or really challenging, we tend to think about the entire thing and every step that we need to do. Instead, all I was thinking about was just making that next step, getting to that next mile, getting into that next cactus, breaking it down, because those were easy steps and my brain can handle it. It was still freaking out. It was still trying to get me out of it, but it's much easier to manage that next step when it is, as opposed to managing 8 miles. Because I always say that you, no matter how beat down you are, no matter how broken you are, no matter how tough the situation is, you always have enough power to take one step forward. So anyone going through something difficult in their life, no matter what it is, no matter how uphill the battle might be, whatever it is, focus on taking that one step. And that's something that you can do. And along the way, challenge that negative voice when it tries to get you to see the bigger picture, when it tries to get you to talk you out of that situation. Challenge that as well. You do those two things, you're not only able to complete an ultra marathon, but you're able to go through any difficult situation in a way that's going to navigate through.
I love that, Joe. Here's a quick question. What is a way for people to challenge that negative voice? Like, if they're trying to understand what you're saying, like, what can you give us an example?
Yeah, for sure. I have 2 methods that are really, really great. So, and they kind of build on each other. One of them is I learned from one of my biggest role models, David Goggins. I mean, this guy, unbelievable. I'm sure you know him if you're tuning in now, but just to be really, really brief about him, look him up. He's the world's toughest man, Navy SEAL, has gone through 3 Navy SEAL Hell Weeks, ultra marathon runner. And like, yeah, I mean, if you're hearing my story and you don't believe change is possible, look at this guy. He was like 300 pounds overweight, like was abused as a kid, like grew up poor. And like, now he's multimillionaire, like toughest man alive, like shredded as can be. Like he just like spontaneously ran 200 miles, like on Thanksgiving. His friend was running 200 miles and he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And he just did it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that guy is on a different level. Anyways, he has a technique called the cookie jar. And this is something that you can do to challenge your negative thoughts whenever they come up. So the cookie jar is supposed to symbolize all of the most badass, amazing things, the things that where you rose above, right? The things where you proved your worth, the things where you were able to go out and really, really shine, and your greatest hits, so to say, right?
Love it.
And so the reason why the cookie jar is so important is because in the moments when you have the negative thoughts, like, I can't do this, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy enough of love, I'm going to get rejected, I'm going to get abandoned, whatever that thought is coming in your head, number one, you want to look at that thought. Make sure that aware that it's there. Like, be aware that it's there. Look at that thought and be like, okay, I see that thought. Number two, you want to look at that thought, go into the cookie jar and find something that proves that thought wrong. So
Yes.
if it is, I can't get through this, or this is too hard for me, look inside that cookie jar and just be like, wait a second. Like, I went out yesterday and I hit the gym even though I didn't feel like doing it. That was hard, but I did it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I got that job that I dreamed of and I worked towards and I like really put my skill set into, and I got that job. I was able to get into a relationship with the girl of my dreams. Whatever that thing is for you, the thing that you are proud of and that you rose above, you need to consciously remind yourself of those things in that moment, because your brain's going to try and show all of your worst hits. You have to remind yourself of your greatest hits. Here's why this works. It doesn't work just because it's positive thinking. It works because it's rooted in reality. Because most times a lot of people say a mantra, right? Like, I am enough, I am worthy, all those things. Don't get me wrong. Mantras are great. They have their place. But how many times have you said a mantra where you're like, I am enough, I can do this, and all of a sudden that voice in your head said, bullshit.
Yes,
right?
Seriously. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Because it's not like something you're taking into action. It's not something that you've like you said, like, have seen yourself accomplish or do. I mean, because that's, I believe in mantras as well, but it's like, such a generic term that's not like, well, this is what you did that proved that this was wrong. You know what I mean? Like, or that this was right, that you could do something.
100% right. It's not rooted in reality, right? It's
Yeah.
not like a real thing. So that's why you had that cookie jar, to be able to go in and really, really challenge those thoughts. Like, remember those things, challenge it with logic and reality too. So for example, if it says, you're going to get rejected here in this situation, right? If you're going to, go into a job interview, or, you're going to talk to that cute guy or girl at the bar, whatever that thing is, or start that business, right? That's a lot of things people want to do. You need to ask yourself and be like, how do I know that's true if it hasn't even happened yet? Right? You got to be in that place of logic. And I'm not just saying, be an emotionless person, but sometimes, like, our emotional thoughts can be very rational. Yes. And so that's one way to do it as well, right? Because that's also true. The thing is true is, like, how do I know that that's true if it hasn't even happened yet? That's something logical. Now, to go back on the cookie jar, some people that I get a pushback on is saying, well, what if I don't have a list of things that I can go and attack my brain at? What if I don't have those lists of accomplishments? That's fine, because I got a good technique for you. Go out and do things worthy of self-respect, worthy of self-confidence, worthy of building yourself up so you can build that cookie jar up. And that's exactly what I did, because if I tried that cookie jar moment when I was lying on the floor like this, I would have failed, because I had really nothing. Like, I didn't do many things. Like I told you before, like, I quit a lot. So my entire conquest of just changing was doing things that were capable of self-confidence and self-respect and earning that self-respect. So I signed up for a 3-mile Spartan race, right? To me, that was super hard at the time, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this race. I'm going to go out. I'm going to conquer it. I'm going to see what happens. And I did it. I completed that race. I got my ass kicked, but I completed the race. And at that moment, I was like, okay, added that to my cookie jar. And I built this identity, like the identity started to build. And then I had that ammo for me whenever my mind was going. Then I signed up for an 8-mile race, then a 15-mile race, then a 20-mile race, then a marathon, then a 30-mile race, and then a 50-mile race. I'm building that cookie jar constantly. Next year, my challenge is an Ironman. So that is all the list that I'm building. And it doesn't have to be running. It just has to be something that's hard, right? Yeah. For some people, running a mile is hard. That's okay. Like, just because I'm out there running 50 miles doesn't mean that a mile isn't hard for you. You got to do the thing that's hard for you. And that's why I always say the antidote to anxiety, the antidote to depression, the antidote to all those things is constantly challenging yourself and doing the hard things, because you build this self-respect and this self-worth and the ammunition in the cookie jar to take down your negative thoughts, to take down your beliefs, and you build that identity of a strong person, not just built on bullshit, but built on reality.
As I'm doing Get Uplifted, I feel like it's a mirror on my life. And I feel like it's been reflecting things back to me that, are you practicing what you preach? Are you working on this? Are you doing that? And I really am so grateful for Get Uplifted, because as a person who's, running this and facilitating this and having the conversations with everybody, I'm really seeing like a big reflection onto myself. And I'm, doing the same thing that every one of you guys are doing right now as you're hearing this, is self-reflection, and, really just checking in to see, like, am I actually doing what I'm saying I'm doing? And am I actually practicing what I'm preaching?
Yes.
So I think that's why Get Uplifted 2020 is just a great thing to do before, we move into the new year. I think we need to reassess where we're at, and kind of approach this new year in a new way, because yes, January 1st, 2021 is not going to be, brand new and fabulous. Everything's fine on that day. Like, I think we need to start working on ourselves now.
Yes.
And, get clear on what our goals, what our why is, what are the things we want to achieve, and the person and people we want to become, and how we want this world to look. And I think that starts by looking inward, working on ourselves, uplifting other people, being there for other people, and just trying to make this world a better place starts with us. So I think, that's where, I don't know, that was just what I was riffing on, but we can pause on that. I mean, thank you. But let me see. I'm like, sorry, I keep stopping us.
No, you're good. You're doing great, by the way.
Thank you. So are you. I'm like, I just want to let you talk the whole time. I'm like, because this is like, no, for real, this is like amazing knowledge that I'm like, you say it with such authority and conviction. And I just love the way you say it, because it's in such digestible ways that people can understand and relate to. And that's why I was so excited to have you on here. So I appreciate all the things you're doing, because people are going to learn so much from these tools and everything.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. What would you want to talk about next? Like, breakthrough or break method, or the art of fulfillment, or also, okay. So here's a couple things. We'll just throw this out there. I want to talk about self-sabotaging behaviors. Because that's kind of like, what you were saying. I was having this conversation with someone, and I was saying that, anytime I'm in a race or something, this is going to be like, I'm shining a light on myself. And yes, this is something I personally do when I'm in a race, or I'm in just like a 5K or something like that. Anytime I see the finish line, I slow down to conserve my energy instead of pushing forward and going as fast as I can to cross that finish line. And I was saying, I'm probably going to cut this part out, but that this week is such a busy week with, recording. I have 6 people I'm recording this week. And I was starting to see the same tendencies happening on Sunday, where I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I should do this, or, I mean, not that I was going to back out, but I was having these like feelings of like, well, maybe I shouldn't do them all. I don't know. And like, maybe we should like move. And it was like, absolutely not, because I just totally noticed that pattern that I do when I'm finishing a race or when I'm doing something, where I start to like, oh, should I conserve? Should I just, slow down a little bit and, make sure it looks good when I finish? And that sounds terrible the way that sounded, but like when I cross the finish line, and I am seeing that pattern. So I think a big topic I kind of want to talk about was self-sabotaging behaviors.
Yes, self-sabotaging behaviors. I mean, this is, as you mentioned before in the beginning of the podcast, I'm the director of operations of Break Method. And, we call ourselves a uniquely powerful approach to stopping self-sabotage, right? Because I always see self-sabotage as something that I think, quite frankly, everybody struggles with if they haven't done the work to really combat that and really go for it. And really what self-sabotage all stems from is beliefs, right? Beliefs about yourself, beliefs about the world, beliefs about, other people, whatever that might be. Your beliefs determine your self-sabotaging behavior, right? So most of the time, people don't understand like beliefs. They don't understand it, right? I see beliefs as like that joke where there's 2 fish in water, right? And one fish asks the other and he goes, hey, the water's nice today. And the other fish goes, what's water? He doesn't even know the water exists, right? It's just like beliefs. Sometimes we don't even know what the beliefs are that we exist. Now, why does this relate to self-sabotage? I see it as kind of like a thermostat. Right? I love this analogy. I can't take full credit from it. I've heard it from many different speakers out there, but I think it really, really just drives the point home, and it drives the point of why we self-sabotage, right? Many of us have beliefs, and in Break Method, we really come down to, there's 3 source beliefs, so to say, right? The beliefs where all these like negative sub-beliefs kind of come from, right? There's 3 beliefs that generally almost like everyone has at least one of them. In that case, it's I will always be rejected. That's one of them. Another one is I will always be abandoned. And the third one is life is chaos. Basically, like, no matter what, like, shit's just going to explode, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think about it. Like if you're always going to have this source belief of I will always be rejected, or I will always be abandoned, or life is chaos, right? What's going to happen like when you're doing really hot, or you're in a situation where you're doing really well and like just really succeeding, and you're like, well, I'm going to get rejected anyways. So you're going to do something that really aligns with that belief. Because like I said before, the belief is like a thermostat, right? Think about your belief as I'll always be rejected as like 65 degrees, right? What happens is when you start getting hot, right, and you start doing well, and you start actually like succeeding at that job, you start doing well in that relationship, you start like doing well in those things, that temperature is like going to 67, 68, 69. If you have that belief in there running the show at 65 degrees, what's going to happen? The AC is going to kick on.
Yes.
And so when that AC kicks on, you start to self-sabotage yourself, because your brain's like, whoa, like you're not a 67 degree, you're a 65 degree, right? You're always going to be rejected. You're not enough. You can't do this. So what happens? You say dumb things. You miss those meetings. You don't go the extra mile in the work that you used to do. And all of a sudden you start going back to that 65 degree mark, because that is your brain's operating system. Yes. We need to be able to raise that temperature up to 68, 69, 70, fuck it, even 80 degrees, right? To be at that place where we want to go. And it all comes with attacking those beliefs about yourself and proving them that you're wrong. One way to really go in and do that is, like I said before, doing that cookie jar method, constantly challenging those beliefs, showing yourself that you can get over that, yet you're not going to be rejected, right? And break method, like one of the things that we do when we have a bunch of different processes that help to, really rewire the subconscious to get rid of these beliefs forever. But one of the things that we really harp on is doing things that prove your source belief wrong. If you're always going to be rejected, what's something that you can do to show that you're not always going to be rejected, right? Yeah. Maybe make like 50 cold calls or whatever, right? There's bound at least 1 or 2 people are going to at least give you the time of day and not reject you, right? And you see, okay, like, yeah, I'm not always going to be rejected. There we go. Or if you have a belief that you're not enough, right? Which is a subset of one of the source beliefs, right? If you're not enough, think about all the people in your life who really do say you're enough, who do show up for you, who do those things, right? And really acknowledge that. Putting yourself in situations that disprove those negative beliefs allow you to stop the self-sabotaging behaviors, because now you build empowering beliefs of yourself and you raise that temperature, right? So in order to beat self-sabotage, you first have to look at your negative beliefs. You have to really, really assess what those things are. And then you got to do whatever it takes to prove them wrong and replace them with beliefs that actually align with, not just positive beliefs, but who you are at your core, right? Yes. You want to be resilient and you don't believe you're resilient, you're always going to self-sabotage yourself in difficult situations. But if you believe to the core of your being that you are resilient and you've shown yourself that you can, in those moments that are tough, your brain's going to automatically throw at you, all right, it's go time. Let's go. We're at 77 degrees now. Now we're going to get to 80, because it works the other way, right? Because when you dip below, right? Let's say now you're at 65 degrees, right? And let's just say you upped it to like 80 degrees. If you're at 67, 68 degrees and you believe that you are someone that's resilient, you're going to be like, oh, I need to kick this puppy up and really get myself back up to 80 degrees. Yeah. Right. So that is the way that it works. That's how self-sabotage stops. It really starts with getting to the beliefs, identifying what they are, proving them wrong, and then getting empowering beliefs that actually move you closer towards where you want to be.
Oh, I love that. That is like the perfect representation and something that's so easy to actually visualize. If you start leaning into things that feel good, or you're coming from a place of serving others rather than, looking inside and just trying to, do something just for yourself. I think it opens up the world to so many different opportunities and options. But someone, my good friend Jeffrey, said to me when I was starting to be like, should I do this? Is this a thing? Like, I'm going to keep it small. I'm going to do this and that. And he said, the worst case scenario is you help someone. And I was like, so it just like blew my mind. And that's where, I'm kind of coming from with something like Get Uplifted. I've never put an event on in my life. And honestly, like coordinating all this, it's all happened so beautifully and has just unfolded. And ask that person, reach out to that person. Start telling people what you're doing, even though you're like, you don't want to get too many opinions, but you do want to start putting it out there to just, make it a real thing. And
I put that, like I did a 50-mile race, like on my story, not to brag, not to like be like, oh, look at me. I do that because I know that there's people out there who have told me before, they're like, he went out and ran 50 miles. And like, I'm someone who would literally like, that first 3 mile race that I mentioned before, I couldn't even walk the next day. And I went from that to where I am now. Not again, not saying that's a brag, but to show it as an example, saying like, there's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about me. Anyone can do what I can do. And it doesn't have to be running. It can be in a business. It can be, in your career. It can be in your relationships. Whatever that is, you can always improve and get better and put your dreams into reality like you're doing. When you show up for yourself, people also will learn how to show up for themselves too.
Yes.
And I always say like lead by example, right? Like the way to change the world is to change yourself. And I always believe like the best way to change yourself is to, do the things that you want to do. What aligns with your purpose? What aligns with your passion, right? Like for me, it's helping people. And that's why I joined Break Method. It's also running. Like I love running. Like running is such a huge thing for me. Like I love to do that. For me, it's also podcasting, conversations, and doing this, right? Like I love doing that. And by doing that, like I'm able to really go out and help other people along the way. So like when you find, I guess like my overarching thing is like, pursue what you love. And along the way, you're going to help people, whether it's directly or indirectly. And that's just something that's just so positive, in these times for sure. In terms of like, it's not going to be forever. Because one of my favorite quotes all the time that I tell myself, even in ultra marathons, even when I'm struggling, and to be honest, like I've had, last few months, I've been struggling for sure. And I've been talking about it on social media, like for sure. And, even though, I come off as this resilient guy, like it doesn't mean like I face struggles in my own life and difficulties and everything like that. And we all face it. That's just the nature of life. If everybody had, a very like if it was always a winning streak, it wouldn't be life or wouldn't be real. So we always have those things, but a quote that I always tell myself in those moments when it's difficult is it's never always going to get worse. Ooh, it's never always going to get worse, right? It might get worse tomorrow. It might get worse the day after, but it's never always going to be like that, right?
I love that.
There's always an end point. There's always some way to get out of it too, right? Same with like an ultra race, right? Like, let me tell you, those last 10 miles I ran felt like they took a million years. But I told myself this is going to end. Like this suffering is temporary. This pain is temporary. The same goes through with any macro scale thing. Like this coronavirus pandemic will end. Like this part of the like just clashing and division that we're seeing like in the world right now, that will end. Like this, I mean, we had an economic recession. It is coming back a little bit. But like recessions end, right?
Yes.
Like all those things have an endpoint. And like you said, in the moments, our brain likes to convince us that reality is going to be forever. And that's often one of the reasons why we feel so trapped in difficulties, is because our brain tries to convince us that this is the way it's always going to be. But if we're able to take a step back and say, this isn't always how it's going to be, we see that light in the tunnel in our minds, and it gives us that hope to wake up one more day, to take that one last step, to really just move forward and keep just putting on that smile, even though when the world tries to just throw everything it has at you. And then here's one thing to take it one step further, is you take actions and conscious steps to get out of that situation if you can control that thing. A lot of times I always say, like, if you're going through a difficulty, you have to ask yourself one question: is this something that I can control, right? So like, for example, if you're in a situation where like you're really struggling at work and it's a matter of skill set, right? Like you just don't have the skills maybe to get through a certain problem. Can you control that situation? Yes, absolutely. Go learn that skill. Go build yourself, build your talents, read the books, go watch some videos on YouTube to learn that skill set. Like go out and do that, because just the act of you trying to solve that thing, trying to get out of that thing, trying to better yourself is going to make you feel good, because you're like, oh wow, fuck, I can actually get out of this thing, right?
Yeah.
But conversely, there's things that we can't control. We can't control coronavirus. We can't control the economy. We can't control the presidential election, right? We can't control any of those things. So then the question is always like, well, what if we can't control it? There is always one thing that you can control. That's how you respond to things.
Yes.
You can control how you respond to adversity. You can control how you can respond to coronavirus. Are you going to use this situation to just sit there and just complain and just, and listen, I'm not undermining the tragedies that are going on for sure. Like if you're hurting in those situations, like I get it. Like it's okay to hurt. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to do those things, but it's not okay to choose to feel those ways forever. And I say that because I know that no one wants to be in that place. No one wants to be in a perpetuity of struggle and anger. And it is in your hands to be able to just take that one step to move forward, to do those things, right? Even when you have so many things going on, right? There's
So
so
true.
many stories that you can read of countless people who have gone through tragedies, right? That, you know, are just unspeakable and undeserving of them, but they were able to just rise above and go through it. And it wasn't a matter of, you know, what their resources were, or their capabilities, or, you know, their inherent traits. It was just a matter of how they responded in those situations. And that
Yes.
is always something that I always tell people. And for some people, I know that's like a harsh thing to hear, but when you can master that, it's a place of power, right?
Mhm.
You can choose to move forward. You can choose to be in a place of calm. You can choose to be resourceful. Those are all choices. Your situation might not be a choice, but it's your responsibility. And
That's so true.
that's the thing that, you know, sounds harsh, but it's empowering, because if it's your responsibility and you have full accountability, you have the chance to turn it all around.
That's so true. And it's like like while I was listening to you say that, all I kept thinking about was like momentum creates momentum, and,
Yes.
just putting in the work and just starting to like, I mean, cause no one's going to get anywhere just sitting there hoping something changes. You have to
Yes.
start like doing
Yes.
something that is going to that's going to lead to the next thing. And that's whether that's, reading a book, or, looking inside, or meditating, or movement, or, it's just if you want change, you have to start with something. And whether it's big or small, sitting, waiting, and wishing is not going to be the way to get to the things that you want. Momentum creates momentum. And that's kind of like what I'm feeling with, Get Uplifted is kind of a movement, just to get people really just, creating this community and current around just supporting one another and showing up for one another. And for us to show up for one another, we have to show up for ourselves. And like you said, it is a reason for us to get up out of bed and be grateful that we woke up and that we're breathing, and, getting back to the simple things of gratitude in the morning. Um, and yeah, I really do feel like we have a choice if we're going to show up or not. And yeah, that's difficult. For some people, it is very difficult to show up and to, just get out of bed. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. It's just when you
No.
realize where you are and what
Mhm.
you can do, that is the next step.
'Cause I'll be honest, like this morning, I actually woke up not wanting to get out of bed. I woke
Yeah.
up in a bad mood. Like I woke up this morning and I was like, damn, I really just don't feel like doing anything today. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not feeling jazzed up to like, like I'm going to be honest. Like I knew I had this
To do
call.
this. Yeah.
Like I was like, I had this feeling that I didn't want to do it, but I always realize I catch it in that moment. Again, those feelings aren't me. I
Mhm.
want to be on this call with you.
Yeah.
I want to help people through this. And it's such an honor for me to be in there. Sometimes though, our feelings and like our brain is going to mask those things through, feeling like crap or feeling like low energy or having these negative thoughts. I was just bogged down by all those things. And it just took
Mhm.
me that one moment just to recognize that and be like, wait a second, wait. I want to be on this call with Nicole today. I want to go and have a killer day with all my clients that I work with at Break Method. I want to really go out today and like, do like we have someone helping us out at work. Like I wanted to go and train her and really like make her someone who can really like be empowered and deliver value and things. Like I needed to show up for that. That's what I want to do. Not
Yes.
this like low energy feeling, not this like feeling sorry for myself, not this like voice in my head like telling me that I should play it small. I posted on my story today,
I love
I'm
that.
done playing small, because honest to God, there are some times in my life where that voice can get really loud telling me to be comfortable, not take that extra step and all those things. And listen, I'm not perfect. There are some days where I actually listen to those things. But here's the thing. I don't beat myself up over it. I don't see that as an indication of myself. I just say, Roger that. I took the L today. I learned from it. What am I going to do next time when that voice shows up? And then I make a commitment to myself not to do it again. Because listen, I can be up here telling you all the tips to be resilient, but I'm not perfect. No one is. Anyone on Instagram says they're perfect, they're lying. So if
Fine.
you do hit a bump along the way, if you do feel like crap one day, if you do miss a workout for whatever reason, don't beat yourself up into oblivion. Don't see that as something as you. Use it as an opportunity to learn. Use it as a data point. Use it as something to say, okay, here's what went wrong. Here's what might cause me to do this. What am I going to do next time to get better? Get excited when you fail. That is like a big thing. And so don't see it as something as you, just see it as a data point to move you forward. And, realize that, the idols that you see on Instagram and everything, and, including, myself, I'm not saying anyone idolizes me, but,
I
but
do.
thank you. I idolize you.
Thanks.
but you know, everyone struggles, and to recognize that it's not a condition of you, but rather a condition of the human condition, that gives it much more power for you to rise up against it.
Yeah. And another thing that I was thinking, because I mean, I was on Joe's podcast, The Art of Fulfillment, and it was the same thing. It was one of those days I was super tired. Show up. It doesn't matter if you're ready. It doesn't matter if you're feeling 100%. No one's feeling 100%. And, you know, it's the ones that don't feel 100% and that still show up, I think, that are the ones that are going to really make a difference.
For sure. And that is, you know, this staple to not just success in life, not just to happiness, but to fulfillment, right? When you're able to, you know, move forward despite how you feel. And I love you explained it so perfectly. It's just showing up. That's where it counts. And you showed up on my podcast that one day, which I was so awesome, because that episode's great for those of you listening. Like, if you want to listen to Nicole drop some bombs of wisdom, go and tune into that episode. It was one of my faves. I definitely loved it. But that is like the thing. All you have to do is show up. You have to show up, and you start to feel better, because here is a quote that will change all of your life. So listen in real close. Mood follows action.
Ooh.
Mood follows action. A lot of times we're waiting to be inspired. We're waiting to feel good. We're waiting to be that optimal state where we're like, hell yeah, I can go out and do it. And listen, we all feel those moments. We hear that song. We're like, oh, I'm motivated. I'm going to go tomorrow and start that business. And we wake up and we feeling all exhausted. Or not exhausted, exhilarated. We feel exhilarated and we go and do it. But then there's a day where we do feel exhausted, where we wake up and we're like, I don't want to do it. And we balk, and then we listen to that and we don't follow through. Because we always believe that we have to be motivated to take action. Action is the thing that actually creates motivation. Right? Because once you start doing it, like you said before, momentum builds momentum. You start getting that momentum, and then your brain's like, oh shit, wait, he is doing this. Like, I can do this. I am doing this. You get excited about it. And all of a sudden you start to feel motivated after that. Mood follows action. Action is not something that has to be followed by inspiration. The inspiration is created by the action. So if you want to be more motivated in life, if you want to be more inspired, if you want to be more energetic, if you want to be all in on the things that you have to do, you just have to take action. You can feel so sorry for yourself. You can feel like crap. You can feel depressed. You can feel angry. You can feel anxious. You can feel all those things at once. If you take action forward, though, on a consistent basis, and you show up despite feeling all those things, you're going to find that you're going to have at least a little bit, at least a spark of inspiration. And then the next day when you do it again, it's going to get bigger. It's going to get brighter. It's going to get brighter. And when you do it over and over again, then you get to this point where you're just jazzed up and fired up about it. And you know that you can do it, because you know that no matter what goes on in here, you're able to make what goes on in here a reality, right?
Yes.
And really make your dreams come true. And so, and that's not to say, you know, if you're going through a mental fuck, don't take the time off. I'm all for that too. But I would say, and this is just a good little caveat rule to have, just because I don't want anyone to burn themselves out.
No.
I would say, like, if you wake up one day and you feel like crap, show up anyways, right? Show up anyways to the gym, right? You're on a good streak, right? And you wake up one day and you're tired, show up to the gym. If you wake up that next day and you just feel even worse, then maybe it's time to take a break. Yeah. But more times than not, you'll wake up that next day after you showed up when you were tired, feeling good. And you'll be back on track. So this is not an excuse to burn out. It's just something to battle those, you know, small little tros that you have every once in a while. Because if you let those things be an excuse for, you know, your dreams, your goals, and your fulfillment, it's going to lead to a life where, you know, like where I was before, where I was just never following through on anything, and ultimately led me to make some pretty horrible decisions. So that's kind of like my tip in a nutshell of mood follows action. Changed my life when I first heard that quote.
I think that's perfect, because it's like the perfect segue into just saying that, you know, movement, the power of movement is like, if you're looking for an action to take, get outside, walk around for 20 minutes. Like, if you don't have 20 minutes, 5 minutes outside, vitamin D, move your body, get the blood flowing. Because I know that anytime I'm in, like, you know, in my mind, I'm just negative chatter, negative talk, negative self-talk, doubting, anxiety, you know, talking myself out of a workout. I'm like, go do it. Just 5 minutes, you know, just hit play on your, you know, whether, yeah, I mean, on your like apps or on your workouts, just hit play to show up to that. And I'm telling you, it'll be something you never regret, because after you get your body moving and, you know, you shake up all this stagnant energy that you were so willing to just sit with and listen to and just let it rattle on in your mind. Honestly, like the power of movement for me personally, and I know for you as well, is just such a vital thing for just getting out of your mind and getting out of your head, and just really shaking things up. I feel like that is such a great way to take action. Like I said, anything, like there is no rules to what your action should look like or be like. Just getting away from what you're currently doing that is not working, do it.
For sure, for sure. I love that point for sure. Is the movement is just so important. It's so important. It's so underrated too, right? Like
Yeah.
I believe a lot of the issues that we face can not fully be solved, but at least, you know, be helped by movement. Movement is a way to really like get the endorphins flowing, like you said, and prove to yourself that you can take action towards it, right? Like
Hmm.
it's one of those things, another thing you can add to the cookie jar. And it's a very underutilized thing in the personal development space because, you know, quite frankly, when I was going through a drug addiction, two of the biggest things that helped me was getting my diet clean and exercising. I never did those things before, but doing those things like just dramatically helped me to, you know, be able to get, you know, control of my mental state. And I'm going to be honest, like, so like along with movement, I was moving a lot training for this 15 miler, but because I was burning so many calories, like I had to eat a lot, and especially a lot of like carbohydrates to really fuel my body, because if I didn't, my body would just shut down because I was just
Yeah.
burning, you know, thousands of calories a day. And so I started to eat, you know, more carbohydrates and everything like that. And, you know, I've learned that over time, my body's very sensitive to that. So what happened was like, I started just, you know, radically just taking on a lot more carbohydrates, like a lot more sugars, like things I wasn't really used to eating because I went on a keto diet for a few years. And
Nice.
my hormones and like my mood just started like swinging. And I remember like, you know, even talking with someone close to me, I was like, I don't know what the hell is going on with me. And they were like, well, how's your diet changed? And I was like, well, like I started eating more carbohydrates, like blah, blah. And they were like, yeah, that's probably what it is. Cause like, I couldn't pinpoint it's like an insecurity or like anything like that. And I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And literally it was just something as simple as that. So I always say the first move, like when you're feeling like crap or anything like that is like, what's your diet like? What, are
Yeah.
you exercising? Are you moving around? Are you getting vitamin D? Like those things won't solve the root cause of the problem all the time, right? Like you still have to go towards the beliefs and the subconscious. I think that's where all of our really mental chaos kind of stems from. But
Yeah.
doing those things is going to help you feel a lot better and going to give you better energy so that you can be more willing to dive into that harder stuff. So if you're feeling like crap, get out and move. If you're like just feeling low energy, check your diet. Eat some like healthy whole foods and some like nutritious vegetables and fruits and, you know, healthy fats, all those things, right? Like I'm telling you, like, I know it sounds so simple and trite, but like it is powerful. It is powerful, like you said before. And it's something that can just change your life, you know, not just, you know, for the rest of your life, but tomorrow, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, everyone's got to kind of figure out for themselves, like what their
Yeah.
body responds to and everything like that. But it can really help. And here's one thing though, that I definitely want to like harp on, because it goes back to the mindset thing, is that, and this is something I've had to learn myself because I had pretty bad eating tendencies as well, is like, in order to really fix like any like, you know, relationship with food or anything, you got to fix your relationship with yourself and
Yeah.
what goes on in here. Because I would catch myself at times getting in this pattern, but I would eat food to feel comfortable when I was bored, when I was like feeling just not great about myself or anything like that. And I realized that I had to attack those insecurities and those negative voices. And doing that, like, not only allowed me to, you know, break those patterns, but allowed me to have like a better relationship with food and myself. So it's a hard game. It's something that's really, really tough to do. But like a lot of the times, like when I used to coach people, when I was kind of doing my own thing, like some of the things would be like, oh, like I'm having problems like sticking to a diet, or I have problems like, you know, like eating too much food or anything like that. It's always getting to the root cause of those things and just being
Yeah.
like, you know, it's not just, you know, having the food around, it's what's driving those behaviors and what's going on them, and not seeing them in a way where you can feel shameful about yourself, but seeing them in a way where it's like, okay, this is what it is. Now I got to do something to rewire those beliefs. And one of the best ways to do it is obviously we teach and break method, but like I said before, doing things to prove it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like when you like show yourself that like eating, you know, you can make healthy food delicious, and seeing the results and you feeling good, like you're never going to want to go back. Like,
So
and I'm
true.
not saying like don't ever eat a cheeseburger again, because
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, like treat yourself every once in a while. Don't be like total asshole. So
Yeah. Enjoy your life a little bit. God.
enjoy your life like a little bit.
So Joe, I know that you recently made a big move, basically across country. Can you tell us a little bit about that and like what
Yeah,
led to that?
100%. And it's been, yeah, it's been a very, obviously crazy year, not just from a macro scale, but for me as well. I've had a lot of changes, new job, new state I'm living in, new girlfriend, shout out to my wonderful girlfriend. But a lot of different things going on for sure. But this kind of aligns to what we were talking about before, when you like do something that you're passionate about and align with it and everything like that. So, before I came to Arizona in May, I was working in Wisconsin for a Fortune 500 company as a financial analyst, making really great money. It was a very secure job. Like I worked for a company where basically like they never laid off people. Like it was like the safest of safe jobs, paid so well. Like the culture was amazing. The people was good. Like it was anything on paper, like where it was like, this is a good situation. But the reality was I was very unfulfilled by it. Like I woke up hating going to work, not because it was a bad job, but just because I just didn't enjoy what I was doing. Like, and there were people who like, I'm not knocking the job at anything, anyone from our works
Totally.
listening. It just didn't align with my purpose and what I wanted to do. And my purpose and what I'm really passionate about is helping other people break barriers mentally to reach a place of fulfillment and joy for their life that they always want to do. That's my passion. That's what I want to align with. Being a financial analyst for this company just did not align with that. And so I felt very burnt out and drained and just like, oh my gosh, because, your job is something that you usually spend most of your life in. So I knew I wanted to change. So all it just took was, I took this program like probably 6 months before I did this move that I'm about to just talk about. What it was called Break Method, right? That's the company that I work for, and specifically the School of Sustainable Self-Mastery, 16-week program where it basically resolves a lot of the issues we've been talking about in here: limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging behaviors, destructive patterns that just lead you down this place of darkness. It's going deep inside your brain, rewiring those patterns, and giving you the tools to sustainably go out and prevent those from happening in the future without being dependent on a therapist or a coach or anything like that. The whole thing is called, that's why it's called sustainable self-mastery, because it allows you to do the things for yourself and be able to get over those, negative barriers that are holding you back as a result of our childhood conditioning. Thought the program was so powerful. Thought it was so great. I had the founder on my podcast, Busy Gold, who is phenomenal. Yes. And yeah, I just thought it was a great journey. And one night I remember I was just so frustrated, like with work, like I was, and it wasn't something that happened to me. I was just sitting there just like, damn, like I've been in this job for like almost a year. Like, oh my gosh, like this is like not what I want to do. And I was just tired. And I listened to this one little voice inside me, and this relates to, your thing of listen to your intuition when it calls, listen to your heart, whatever you call it, listen to God, like for some people, right? Like, and I'm definitely a believer of that too. Like I align, with my God and everything like that. And I believe there's divine calling. And in those moments, like it told me to, it was like, reach out to, and it was specifically this person was like, reach out to Busy, because I knew her and, we texted every once in a while and going back. And I said, reach out to her. And I could have done what I used to do, which is hear that voice and just be like, nah, like it's not even worth it. Like, it's just whatever, like it's not going to do it. But I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So I texted her and I said, hey, do you like need any help with your business? Like, I'm more than happy to help. And she's like, yeah, like I have a few ideas, like let's hop on a call and do it. And I was like, oh, wow. So I was working with her part-time and just doing some stuff, helping out with some content creation and everything like that. And, one thing just led to another, to the point where, I actually, it's really, really funny. It's a funny story actually, but I remember I was working with her and I really wanted to work full time with her. And I was also working this job, and I booked tickets to Phoenix where she lived. I was in Wisconsin at the time, flew out to Phoenix and basically like proposed. I said, hey, like, here's what I think I can do for you. I want to work for you. I'm ready to learn. Like, I'm ready to do this. I'll move everything and come out here and I'll come work for you. And she said, okay, like, yeah, like, let's do it. And so I took that leap of faith. And again, it was that same thing. Like, I remember like the moment I was about to book the tickets, like something was calling me to do that. Yes. And I could have just said no, like flying out there is ridiculous. Like, what if she said no? What if she said no? Like, what if you just fly out there for nothing? But I also asked myself this, what if she said yes? Like, what if I could pursue this? Like, what if it actually like follows through? And I even told myself is that, okay, but like, what if it doesn't happen, at least I tried. At least like I gave an attempt, right? Most times, like the biggest regrets aren't the things that we did, it's the things that we didn't do.
Yes. Yes.
So in those moments, like when you think you know you want to do something, do it anyways. The worst
Yeah.
that you do is fail, because the alternative is the worst, that you live a life of regret. And I always say regret, the pain of regret is much worse than the pain of failure, all the time, 100%. So, yeah, so that happened, and moved out here to Arizona right in the middle of the pandemic. It was right in May.
I know. I was like, wait, you're moving? What? And I was just like,
yeah.
And that's the power of action, people. And also, I want to point out that while you were, going through the things with your job and just feeling like you weren't fulfilled, this and that, you came from a place of serving others. You asked her, how can I help you? Like, is there anything I can help you with your business? You got outside of yourself and you just offered up your skills and things that, fulfilled you and like drove you for your purpose. And, look where that led. It's to your new job. You know what I mean? Just listening to that little voice, getting on the plane, taking the steps, taking the actions, trusting yourself to know the right, things when they all start like lining up.
100%. Like, and all the time, like that, I'm so glad you highlighted that, because that was like, and that's the place I still operate at, like, in the position I'm at now, not just in my job, but in life in general, is come from a place of service and you'll get what you want, and don't expect it, right?
Yes.
Do it because you genuinely want to help. Don't just do it because, there's a chance of you getting a job, or there's a chance of, someone, I don't know, helping you out in some way or form. Like, do it because you actually care, right?
Yes.
And when you do those things and you like give, like you get so much more in return. And I always say, like, if you don't, and Tony Robbins says this all the time, I love it. He's like, if you don't have something, give it, right?
Yes.
Give it. If you don't have love, give it. Like, because most of the times when you give that thing, it's what you get. And
yes.
So in that moment, like I just wanted to give, mostly because I wanted to help too. But like that coming in that mode and that mindset not only allows you to, get more, right? Because that's not the point, but allows you to be more fulfilled and carry out your mission. Most of the times when people are passionate about something, if you combine it with an element of contribution, like that just makes it so much better, because like Tony says all the time, and I love it, the secret of living is giving, right?
Yes.
Giving so much. So like if you're struggling, like, and I always say this too, like when I'm having a bad day or if I feel like I'm struggling, like I go out and try and help someone, right?
Yeah.
And that is like a key thing too. So back on like the passion point, like too, a lot of people, their barriers to entry with the passion might be money, might be skill set, might be connections, might be anything like that, right? I always say, like, how can you be someone of service in those moments, as opposed to just expecting that life should hand you this thing, and you're going to find that you're going to get there. So like, if you want to work in a certain industry, go, like, for example, like if you want to be like a lawyer or whatever, right? Like definitely do all the steps where you go to law school and everything, but like reach out to your local law offices and be like, hey, like, what can I do to help around here? Right? Like, what can I do to learn around here? Like, what can I just do to give? And go in it with the mindset of not what I can get from this, but what can I give?
Yes.
And by having that mindset, you're going to get more than you have ever expected, even if you went in that mindset of what am I going to get? So if you want to be, an artist or anything like that, find ways to give, find ways to help out. And you're going to be able to get into that passion much, much more. Come from a place of giving as opposed to getting, and you're going to get more than you ever have in your entire life.
Ooh, Joe, you're preaching. I'm loving that. No, it's the truth, because I mean, we live in such a society that is so self-driven and worldly driven and status and material things. And if there's one thing that I've learned, and I feel like a lot of people have learned this, this 2020 has caused us to slow down, to really get clear on what's important. And
yeah, and like that, like to me, like I just found that was my passion, to give, in a sense of being able to help people, right? And help people get rid of these patterns, right? And these self-destructive things. And that's why I, align to work with Busy and Break Method, because that it gives me an opportunity to do so and do that. And I remember literally just being like, man, this is like, I remember like the first 2 months of the job, I was like, this is like the happiest I've ever been in my life. And not to say that it was an easy job, because like, listen, like, like we were growing really fast. There's a lot of like, we have a lot of big ambitious goals, and that always, usually when you have big ambitious goals, it's never easy. It's never something that's really obtainable. But let me tell you this, like doing something that's super challenging and demanding and really just test your skill set but is aligned with your passion is always going to be way better in the long run than doing something that is easy, able to check the box each day, but doesn't align with your purpose and passion. The last job I had, I was great at. I was killing it. I was doing well, but I didn't enjoy it and I was miserable. This job, it's challenging me. It's pushing my skill sets. I'm learning new things. It's demanding of me, but I love it. And I love what I do. And I can tell you that like I will take that any day over the other thing. So never be afraid of what's going to happen with your passions, because the long-term like downside of that is going to be you living this life of regret, living this life of what if, living this life where you don't enjoy. But doing the hard thing is not only going to make you much more appreciative of yourself, like I mentioned before, but it's when you align with your passion, like that creates a life worth living. Like life is like, this is going to sound so simple again, but it's something that most people don't follow. The point of life, I think, is to enjoy life. It's to enjoy your life. So if you're doing something every single day that you're hating, you're like miserable at, like you're just not enjoying it, you need to do something to change. Now, I understand people need to pay bills, especially in this time right now, right? Like where, you know, the economy is really tough right now. A lot of people are like out of a job. To have a job right now is a blessing. Totally understand that. And I'm not saying go out and quit your job. I'm not saying do those things, because when I was working at the job I was before, I would work 9 to 5 and then I'd come home and I'd work towards my passions, right? Even if it was just for 30 minutes or an hour a day. Doing that is better than doing nothing at all. Like I said, like you said before so beautifully, all you got to do is just show up. You show up consistently, you're able to get there. So if you're in a place where you're like, I really don't enjoy my life, I don't enjoy my relationship, I don't enjoy my job, I don't enjoy the place that I live, like there's always small steps that you can do every single day to move out of that, right? So always just believe that, right? And listen, the reality is it might take a year, it might take 2 years, it might take 3 years to really, really get out of that situation. But it's better than just accepting it and just letting it be and living this life of emptiness, right?
Totally. And waking up one day and just realizing you're not living the life that you always wanted, or, you know, you just been blindly showing up to and just clocking in, clocking out, you know, just going through the motions. And I think the biggest thing is like for people to recognize that and to see that and to take action on it. And yeah, it's very scary to, you know, take a leap and leave your comfort zone. But I mean, as you can see, Joe did it and moved across the country during a pandemic and, you know, is living his passion and fulfillment and, you know, helping others. And because I mean, I remember when you were working the other job, you were still working on the art of fulfillment, you were still coaching, you were still doing all this stuff. And I think that that says a lot too, because it wasn't just like you came home and put Netflix on, like you were still working towards your goals. You weren't quite sure how like the transition was going to be. And look, it just took a simple, hey, do you need help? And look at, you're living in Arizona, living your dream life, running 50 milers and, you know, working at a place that fulfills you, that helps people and, you know, in turn helps yourself. And I just think it's a beautiful story of just like following your passions and aligning with your purpose. And yeah, I'm so grateful for everything you're doing, Joe. And I'm so grateful that we've met and that I get to have this conversation with you to share with the world, because I just truly feel like you're a light in this world that needs to be shined on, and that people need to see that there are other ways of thinking. There's other ways of addressing things. There's another way of choosing to show up. And, you know, we are in control of our mind, and you are a person who embodies that. And even though you show your struggles and that, you know, nothing is perfect and we're all human, I mean, the fact that you keep showing up and helping others and just shining a light on, you know, the things you're going through and the difficulties and the challenges and how you're just crushing them, I think is a complete and amazing inspiration. And I'm just so grateful for you.
Oh, Nicole, thank you so much for that, my friend. And the same goes to you. You're such a light. Like I always just love your positive energy and your ability to, you know, really bring the best out in other people and everyone in your life, and just spreading this message. I always just love seeing like your face with just a big smile on your stories, just saying like, just feeling so grateful for this day, and you know, you doing this to really inspire people and to get them uplifted for, you know, the next year to come and everything. Like everything you're doing is just amazing, and it inspires me too. And I'm so grateful to call you my friend. I'm so grateful to be here on the show, and I'm just so grateful you're here on this earth, because you're truly making this whole place better for everybody. So I really
Thank you,
appreciate
Joe. I
you.
appreciate that. And if anything, guys, like, I mean, I hope that this like sheds light on that. We're all going through things. We're all human. We're not saying that Joe is like, Joe and I have this like mental capacity that no one else has. Like, no, these are things we're working on. I mean, we're showing you that like, yes, we are struggling. We still have chatter and we have all of these things we're dealing with, but we're showing you that like, you know, just reach out for help, reach out to people. Anytime you're in your own head, move around, take some action. And also, to get out of like yourself, ask someone if they need help with something, find out what you're good at, you know, learn your passions, learn your purpose, and you know, spread that love, spread that to people if they need help with things, like figure out your skills and offer them up to people and just see where it leads, because it might take you down a path that you would have never imagined.
100%, 100%. Well said. Well said for sure, my friend.
Thank you so much for being here, Joe. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure I will talk to you. Importantly, where can people follow you?
Oh yeah, 100%. So thank you for asking. So I'm on Instagram most actively and predominantly at Joe Corcione. You can also, if you're interested in Break Method at all, you can follow us on Instagram at Break Method or at Facebook on our page at Break Method. And you can also check out our website, breakmethod.com. We got a lot of cool things and a lot of cool courses in there. If you want a discount code, just DM me on Instagram. Just saying, hey, like I listened to the talk on Get Uplifted, and I'll be happy to hook you up with a discount code to use at any of our courses. So you can find us there. And if you want to listen to my podcast, The Art of Fulfillment,
Yes.
you can do so wherever you listen to podcasts. It's out there. Oh, you're amazing.
Thank you so much for everything. It was so great chatting, and thank you again for your time and energy and for everything you're doing to make this world a better place.
Oh, of course, Nicole. Same goes to you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. I'll see you soon, Joe.
Yep. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.